Hello and welcome to episode 38 of the Your Way podcast. So, for those of you who are listening to this on the day it is out, happy Boxing Day. I hope that you had a marvelous day yesterday, whatever you got up to. So, this is our last podcast of the year, and I thought we would just do a little bit of an exercise, have a bit of a discussion, Sydney's tail in the background, to help you really round out the year in a nourishing way. So I'm calling this episode Look Back to Move Forwards, which is actually one of the names of a previous class that I have taught. Now, in the context of that class, we look at why it is beneficial for us to look at the impact of our childhoods, the family dynamics, the rules that we learned in the past in order to make sense of how we got to where we are now, in order to then understand where we need to go next so that we can create the future that we want. And what I've been doing with my Your Way group this month is applying some of those themes, but just in the context of the last year. Because when we take some time to really dive into what did we learn in the year, what were our growth topics, what were the things that were challenging for us, what were the patterns that came up again, and how did we deal with them in a slightly different way than we maybe would have done in the past. Like when we do all of that stuff, we can get to a really lovely place of making sense of the year and grounding ourselves in an understanding of why we are different and how we are different, and then what we want to take into the next year and what we want to leave behind. And so, short and sweet today. I know it's like bang in the middle of holiday season, but just something for you to think about is if you look back on this year with the most compassion that you can possibly bring yourself, what were your big learnings? What were the challenges? But also, how did you overcome them to become a stronger, more resilient version of you? Most of us do not like to have challenges, but actually, once we're through them, we're like, oh, like now I can see how that challenge has really benefited me. Whereas when you're in it, perhaps maybe not so much. And also, can you take the time to really celebrate your wins? Like, what are the things that have gone well this year? Where have you excelled? Where have you succeeded? Whatever your version of success is. Really taking some time between Christmas and New Year, which tends to be a quieter time for a lot of people, to really take stock of the year that has just gone. So if you want some journal prompts, dead easy, but they are: what are you most proud of in 2024? And you might come up with a minimum of three, but you don't need to stop there. But see if you can come up with three. What are you most proud of? What are the lessons that you learned? And what do you want to leave behind in 2024? Like, what doesn't get to go into 2025 with you? And that might be a behavior, it might be a pattern, it might be a relationship, it could be anything. Just see what intuitively comes up for you when you ask yourself the question, what needs to stay in 2024? Because when we are growing and changing and evolving, we actually can't take all of our old identity with us. A lot of the stuff that we are doing, that I am walking you through, that even we do on this podcast, is identity shifting work. You are shifting into a new identity, a new version of yourself, and that means leaving parts of you behind, which, by the way, comes with some grief. So you might want to spend some time in the next few days allowing yourself to grieve the parts of you that maybe don't get to come along. But I also don't want you to bypass the stuff that went well and to really acknowledge and celebrate. And yeah, if you've got lists of things that are like, well, this didn't go well and I want this to do differently, and these are my goals for 2025, by all means, right? By all means. But also, can you take a little bit of time to acknowledge the year? Because guess what? If you are listening to this, you made it through the year, and that is an amazing, amazing thing. And as this is the final episode of the year, this is only really going to be relevant for those of you on YouTube. And as Sydney, for the first time ever, decided that she wanted to swish her tail around, I'm just going to grab her so that she can wish you all a Merry Christmas as well. So give me 1 second. Come on then. You want to make your podcast debut? Say Happy Christmas to everybody. Happy Christmas, everybody. Have you got any messages of wisdom for these lovely people, Sydney? Sydney says, remember how special you are and how amazing you are and how worthy and deserving you are to be here just as you are. You don't need to prove it. You don't need to work for it. You just get to be. And she wants to wish you a lovely rest of 2024 and all the best for 2025. And so do I. Take care, and I will see you in the new year. Before you go, I so hope that you enjoyed today's episode. And if you did, I'd like to ask you a favor, please, because the way that this podcast grows and the way that more people get to benefit from these materials is that more people find it. And that means that subscribes and likes and shares are so, so important to this space. So, my ask of you, if you got value from the podcast today, is give it a review, give it a like, share it with a friend, and make sure that you are subscribed. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you being here. And I look forward to continuing to support you to do life, business, relationships, and all of it your way.